Hey, how you going? Got my triggers happening tonight. My name's Quinlan. Welcome to Melbourne Musos Facechook Live. And yes, on a bit of a rainy Friday for the end of the first week of the school holidays, we're all taking a well-earned break by moving into the next room. What did I say last week? Jump in your car, pack it up with all the camping stuff, go out to your 5K limit, drive back, pitch a tent in your backyard. There you go. Anyway, jazz is not dead. It just smells funny. Hey, that's what I'm going to do tonight. I'm going to talk about jazz, and I'm going to talk about other things too. I'm going to talk about a term called quantization and all that. And here I am playing my normal funky beat. But what happens if you're playing slow? There you go. Now what I'm going to do is I'll take the triggers off for a little bit. They're coming back later on and all that. And what goes on is there's this term that we sort of know in a different kind of way when you're doing things like notational software and stuff like that. You have a thing called quantization. And what happens is, what quantization is when you're dealing with a beat. So you might have just a normal rock beat, let's say. And what goes on is you've got a rate there, really. You get bass drum, snare drum. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. So they're crotchets. It's a crotchet rate. Even though you're playing quavers there, half a beat each, the main beat, what everyone's really dancing to is, yeah? As soon as you put in quavers like, oh, 16th note, not yet, Chris, not yet. Oh, I'm putting them in already. Okay. But that's a quaver rate, you see. So there's that. You're quantizing to quavers and all that sort of stuff. And then, of course, I was doing 16th note, so you could get that. So, boom, boom. Yeah. That kind of stuff there. So it's 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4. Now I mentioned the word jazz. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4. 4 to 1, 2 to 3, 4. Triplets, my triplets. And there you go. However, what happens is that with this quantization, let me talk about it in kind of a way that everyone can sort of get at. Think about your computers and all that sort of stuff. It quantizes. Okay, and now if you've got some, say, music notational software, like Sibelius, for instance, or Finale, or some of the famous ones out there, what actually goes on is that you can get into the settings, and if you're a keyboard player and you're actually playing your piece into the computer, what happens is if you're a micro bit out, if you don't have any quantization, you're going to have these 30-second notes and everything's going to turn out being almost unreadable, that kind of thing, and all that sort of stuff. And so what happens is you quantize it. It has default settings. So you might quantize it to 16th note. So even if you're just a little bit out, like a flam, like even if you're just a little bit out, instead of it being like a 30-second note. I've seen some of those pages. Oh, my Lord. It's like, you really want me to play that? You know, that kind of thing. Okay, I'll give it a try. You know, sort of thing. But what happens is that the quantization of the computer puts it on the money, right, on the number and all that sort of stuff. So it tightens it up. That's a common thing in studio technique and stuff like that as well, you know, when you're dropping in beats and all that sort of business. And that's what goes on. You get a quantization. My very first notational software program about 20-something years ago was very basic, but you could pick it. And it's like, think of it like a timeline. Okay, I use Final Cut Pro for this, but maybe you've got iMovies or the Windows version or whatever it is. And you can set it so how many seconds or how many minutes into the movie it is. And when you really want to do fine stuff, you expand it out so it's just 2 seconds and it's wider. But then if you want to see the whole thing, you can bring it down. Final Cut Pro, you just press the button and away you go. I do it all the time. That's what I do. And that's bringing it out, bringing it in. So when you're quantizing, as far as musically, what can start to happen is that you can adapt your beats to the kind of tempo that you want to play. Now, because I mentioned jazz, the usual thing is triplets. So you get 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4. However, if you take that super slow, 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1, it starts to lose its groove. It starts to sound like that. So why not quantize it? Why not interpret it into 16th notes? 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1. Like that, it's got a bit more movement to it, you see. And then what happens then is that you can actually start to get movement into very, very slow songs. And what starts to happen, what I did just before, was I sort of just went. Now that'd be the slowest beat in the world if I just sort of went, oh yeah. Eep, you know, that kind of thing. But underneath, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4. One. See what I mean? That's what's going on. I'm getting lost in that, actually. Now, one of the things that happens with that is that you can actually I was going to use the word cheat the metronome, but it's not really. What happens is that one of the little tricks of the trade with a metronome and all that is that you don't always just have to set. If it's a dead slow song and you're playing at 60 beats a minute, that's slow. There's a lot of space between the notes, you know, that kind of thing. And when you're in doing any kind of symphony orchestra stuff or, you know, just general school band even, and you have to do a roll. Oh, I remember Dvorak's New World Symphony with the Essendon City Band. Ooh, slow. Didn't have the hi-hat, it was just rolls. And all that. And what would happen is I had 58 bars of rest or something like that. It was crazy. And the first few rehearsals, you're going, 47, 48. Anyway, but then I worked out that the cornets don't have trumpets in brass bands. You have cornets. They're like little squash trumpets. And the cornets would come in 8 bars before I came in. So I just waited for them. I waited for Terry. Oh, he's playing. I'll go, I'll get ready now. And it was, yeah, I can start counting now. Oof, tricks of the trade, I suppose. But what happens is that this sometimes happens, especially when you're doing a slow march. Sort of. Now you can't see my press rolls here, but that camera can. And later on, with a bit of editing audio, I'll put it there for you. I'll put it up here on the tom so you can hear it. Like that. Like that, yeah. Now, seeing I'm talking about brass bands and stuff, one of the things about a press roll is that it works in reverse, you know, sort of thing. You know, so many clips and all that, maybe mine included. Look how fast he can go. You know, especially in the death metal genre. Ooh, double kicks at so many beats per minute. Ah! All that sort of business. But what happens, God bless our little socks for that too. But what happens with press rolls is what often happens is that press rolls are not dug in like that. That is called a scratch roll, okay? That's even in one of George Stone's books, Accents and Rebounds. The yellow one, there's George Stone's Stick Control, and then the sequel is Accents and Rebounds. And he talks about that, and he said it's useless to anyone. In other words, it's shit. So what happens is with a press roll, can I have a drum roll, please? And the winner is. What you do is quantize the press roll, because one of the things that happens with press rolls when you're in a marching band, when you're in a brass band, and you're doing not so much Anzac Day, but Remembrance Day, November 11th, right? All that. That's much more of a somber day than Anzac Day, okay? And what happens is, I just remember playing lots of hymns, and dear Ronnie Ruth of the City of Essendon Band would say, just press roll, Chris. As if it's easy. By the end of it, it's like, oh, bloody hell, my wrists are falling off, and you have to stand up. You know, and if it was a hot day, we used to do, because it was the Essendon Brass Band, we used to do it in Queen's Park, right? At the little cenotaph there, and you'd stand there and do it. And the little cadets would be there at marching, and if someone didn't have their breakfast, doink, and they stay on the floor until it's finished, right? They stay on the deck. Remembrance Day, remember them. But what happens with the press roll, you try and get the quantization to the rhythm of the piece of music you're playing. So if you're going to, say, do some jazz, 1, 2, 3, 4, with a 4 on the floor bass drum, big band stuff, a la Krupa. Ooh. There you go, you see. So what happens is your press rolls in triplets, you see. So what happens then is if you're playing a certain kind of music, you would adapt, I think I'm talking press roll, you would adapt your press roll to suit the music that you're in, okay? You sort of morph it in. So when you're dealing with, say, rudimental notation, it's interpretative, okay? What happens is that you go with the flow. So you don't really want, don't do that sort of thing. You get so on. The other week I did New Orleans and early jazz. But slow. Let's go slow. Now, the press roll there It's almost like you let it drop. I'll put it on the hi-hat for you for that. See? Let it drop. You start to work the bounce, that kind of thing, and then, so you get that. Now this is the opposite, because the other week I was talking about hot club jazz, 6 cups of coffee. Django Reinhardt. But I don't think Benny Hill had any part of it. But anyway, there you go. But if you're going to do it slow, that's for this camera up here. The idea is to, I was saying to one of my students just the other day, it's almost like squeezing the last bit of toothpaste out, if you know what I mean. Boom, boom, like that. There you go. So, a 1, 2. Now that is a little thing that I call, it's my name for it, it's in my grade 5 drum set manual, but it's a catch stroke. It's like you press down and tap on the way up, and it's like you're catching the press. There you go. See? Let's put something on there. I'll just improvise. I haven't done. I wasn't going to do that, but I. There you go, you see, sort of, that kind of thing there. I don't know. Ba-dum-bum, ba-dum-bum-bum, whatever. Anyway, there you go. So there's a bit of pressing. Now, you're quantizing. I haven't lost the plot. I'm doing a bit of multitasking here. You see, so what happens is if you're going to play hymns and they're dead slow and you get that kind of... What happens then is that you interpret the notes, you see. So what starts to happen is if you're dealing with a dead slow beat, now I've got 2 references. I was playing with the great Melbourne jazz pianist, Bob Settergreen. I first met Bob in about 1978. And I was just a young punk and all that. But we've played together over the years a little bit, all that sort of stuff, more in the 80s and stuff, all that business. Been on the show throughout the 90s with Tony Gould. There's all those shows that we did together, Melbourne Hall, I remember. All that. Anyway, I just remember him saying once about Miles Davis's Star People album from 1981. And... the title track, Star People. I mean, that album, it just goes bang with Come Get It. Sort of like that guy. Oh! We're talking Miles Davis here. And all that sort of stuff. Al Foster on drums. Oh! Such an undersung drummer. Everyone talks about the usuals, which is terrific. That's all right. I don't mind a few underdogs. Okay, Al Foster. Just check out Al Foster. Check him out in the mid-70s with Miles Davis's Agharta album, Agharta, Agharta. And then, Miles Davis took his couple of years off. And then he came back with The Man with the Horn. And double entendre there, Chris. Okay, all right. And what happens is that then it was Star People and exploded. And then the album after was We Want Miles, and that was all done live, and that was just an amazing album. Al Foster. Check him out, okay? I name as many people as I can Al Foster. But Star People, I remember Bob Settergreen saying, what a slow blues or slow tempo that was. So it'll be like... I'm doing it like trad. It's not trad. It's kind of early 80s jazz rock in the only way Miles Davis could do it, really, kind of thing. And but what happens? It was that kind of... Oh. There's the press, you see. Now, do you notice that when you have a metronome on your phone, I use tempo, which is pretty good. When you put the bell on, so it's ping, 2, 3, 4, ping, 2, 3, 4. Have a close listen to the ping, okay? It stops on 2. It just goes, because it's a sample. It's in a phone, right? It's digital. So you go ping, stop. And if you've got it on a dead slow tempo, ping, stop. Ping, stop. I go, where's one? It's like finding where's Wally. And that's what goes on with this. So what happens is you can cheat the metronome. If you've got something in a slow tempo, like, say, perhaps 80 beats per minute, it's slow, double it, 160, okay? Now, one of the things that I often do, you often see me do this, I was doing it the other day for one of the Remotes songs. Hello, the Remotes. Hello, boys and girls. Oh, Brothers in Arms I mentioned last week. Scott, hey, there you are, mate. All right, but what happens is if I've got a normal rock beat, let's add a bit of spice, rim shot. Now, hi-hat. Notice the little tiny ghost notes. And 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. I don't know why I did that at the end, but I've got it. Hey, hey. There you go. So there's quantization, you see, and that's what goes on there. One of the first things, I'll take this out again, but one of the things that when I thought, this is where I'm heading for this Facechook live, all that. This is where I'm heading. And one of the great early tracks. It's pretty out there jazz, but it's a band called Air, and the leader of the band is Henry Threadgill. Ooh, he's part of that real out there collective in the late 60s into the 70s and stuff like that. And he had a band called, was it? Yeah, it was Air, and it was Open Air Suit. That's what it was. And Steve McCall was the drummer, another unknown or little known, but much loved in the certain right circles. I certainly loved him. And what happens is it started out, so much space. It was like, think of it like, let me see, a 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, if I just did 1, 2, 3, 4, like that, but it wasn't. It was like 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the way it started. The album started out with that kind of a drum solo. And it was just like, ready to fall over sort of thing. There's the art, you see, to playing slowly, okay? And you quantize it, you see. That's what I'm getting at. You see, because when I'm listening to things like the drummers of Burundi, for instance, off of Real World Records, Peter Gabriel's record company, they've got this, they're just amazing, like that. But it's not quite a shuffle. It's not quite triplets. It's not quite 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4. And I really went at it one day to study it. And it's almost like a quintuplet kind of quantization. Because it's like hippopotamus, 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 like. Off they went, sort of thing, Womadelaide and all that sort of business. Incredible stuff. But the quantization, or their rate of play, it had that lilt to it, okay? And it's a funny thing, because one of the things about that is when I was really getting into Frank Zappa seriously, I mean, I love Frank Zappa since 1973, all that, but when I started being the completist and really studying, I bought the Uncle Neat album. And he loved 5/8, like and for the longest time I was actually just thinking, is that because I hadn't been taught any of the fives and the sevens and the non-divisible numbers as far as rates at that point, kind of thing. The album was released in 1968. Go check it out. But what it is I was actually trying to play it like like a slow shuffle, but it wasn't. It was 5/8, right? So it was sort of like a hippopotamus, 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 hippopotamus. So if you bring that out, hippopotamus, you see? There you go. So if I'm going to play... You see it? Now, what that is something I've done in the past. Fast notes slow, slow notes fast. Because when I did that roll, that's a fast single stroke roll. Think of it like timpani, all that stuff. But what goes on is it's dead slow, right? But I could just go... I didn't play fast at all then, it was just like that, you see. Quantisation, you see. Rates of play. All right, now I've talked about jazz, I've talked about lots of different things. I've got my triggers here, I might as well do that one more time. And what goes on is that there you go. So mixing between a bit of so on, it goes like that. See, but what I'm going to do now is I did promise, hey, get that off. I did promise some Be-Bop Detective stories. Once upon a time, as you know, the last couple of weeks, I've been doing some bebop poetry, for better or worse. But funnily enough, I just wanted to do one, and everyone seemed to like it. So I did one last week with my tinfoil hat. Anyway, there you go. And I'm going to do one tonight, featuring a special, beautiful guest. And this is where I love and leave you. My name is Quinlan. I will have all this up tomorrow with a little bit of tomfoolery behind me with the blue screen or the blue curtains. And yeah, on our beloved Channel 31 on Wednesday at 10 o'clock, the abridged version. But if you want the complete version, I'll have it up when I bomb Facebook tomorrow. You see, what I do on Saturday nights, I treat it like a Saturday night gig. So I'll have something at, say, 7, then something else at 8, something else at 9, at 10. If I haven't fallen asleep on the couch, maybe something at 11 as well. Oh, what a life I lead. We lead. Anyway, I'm going to leave you with this little story. Tad risque sort of thing, but it's what it is. Anyway.
My name is Karl Karma. I'm a private eye. Yesterday, I was sitting in my New York-type Laverton South office when the phone rang and scared me half out of my secretary. A sultry, sexy voice purred over the line. "Who are the jazz police?" This caught my attention. She sounded to me like a jazz singer I once met. She had teeth like the 10 Commandments, all broken. "The jazz police run this town, baby," I replied. Boy, did I know about the jazz police. My last job, the case of the alto player who lost track of one, was baffling, until the vital clue popped up, a metronome with a flat battery. It led me to the jazz policeman's lair. Inside I found the alto player. He had a stab wound to his heart, bullet wounds to his head, and his wrists were slashed. He was dead. The jazz police take no prisoners. They were gone, the trail gone cold. "What are they up to now?" I asked. "No more over the phone," she whispered. "Meet me at Jiving Joe's jazz joint in 1 hour, and make sure you bring your horn. You know how to blow, don't you? Just put your 2 lips together and say, 'Arts Council grant.'" I raced downstairs and hailed a cab. The cab stopped with a jerk. The jerk got out and I got in. I gave the driver an extra redback and told him to be generous with the pedal to the metal. He took the corner at 100 kilometres per hour. A cop stopped us and told us to put it back. We drove along the footpath because there was a sign saying, "Keep death off roads." Then we were out of the city. I knew this because we weren't hitting so many pedestrians. The cab pulled up to Jiving Joe's jazz joint. The jazz singer met me at the door. She greeted me with a burning kiss. Then she took her cigarette out and kissed me again. We went into the jazz joint. She took me through to the band room. She was the leader of the Draconian Mode avant-garde collective. A gorgeous woman. She turned around and pointed 238s at me. She also had a gun. She had the most beautiful hair on her head too. "The jazz police are here," she whispered in a purring tone. "They're at the bar, disguised in grey goatee beards and slurping red wine, talking loudly through slow ballads. They know that I use George Russell's Lydian chromatic theory of soloing. They want me to stick to their pandemic of pentatonics. The jazz police rule this town. Everybody has to stay in their box. I tried breaking out, now they want to rub me out for it. I told our band manager they're here. He's trying to cut a deal, but he hasn't come back. He's left me in the lurch, so I called you. I was desperate." "Don't worry, Slinky," I replied nonchalantly. "Get your band to play some fusion music and I'll slip you out the back door while they're vomiting into the complimentary house buckets." As the band were murdering a myxomatosis mode and the jazz police had their heads in the bath-soaked sand, I slipped sweet cakes out through the back door. Outside was the manager in his car, dead. His mobile phone was still next to his ear. I picked it up. He was talking to the city morgue. He must have seen the bullet coming. We jumped in the car and made our getaway. As we turned the corner, a brick came flying through the window, hit Honey Buns on the breast, and broke 4 of my fingers. The jazz police were onto us. We needed some quick action. I grabbed the manager's mobile phone and rang Ahmet Rodan, director of I Can't Believe It's Not an Arts Grant, Incorporated. "Don't you know that the jazz police bugs everybody?" Hot Pants asked in a breathless voice. I knew his phone was tapped. I took a risk. Jazz is like that. Baby, these are the days where you have to be so tough, you wear your clothes out from the inside. "I need some dough for a freaky project," I shouted in the mobile as the jazz police gained on our funky little Be-Bop Volkswagen. "What's the angle?" Ahmet replied in a thick, husky kind of New York type Brunswick Street Fitzroy accent. "Well, the drummer will play in 7/8, the bass player will play in 3/4, the piano player will play in 5/16, while the tenor sax blows his nose. We all use Ornette Coleman's harmonic theory, and we'll wear dresses and funny hats to prove we're truly different and genuinely freaky. I'm sure it's never been done before." "You've got the gig, man," Ahmet Rodan replied. "Sounds terrific. Make sure you only get musicians who are sullen and withdrawn and continually drift off into the twilight world of their own secret thoughts. Also, if you rehearse, you'll ruin the magic, so don't. Make sure the musicians always go for a note they know they can never get. It sounds more authentic that way. I can't talk anymore. See you at the gig. Don't forget the kickback. Commission is 20%. One more thing. This is not jazz. This is art." "Right on, brother." I threw the mobile back on the deck, turned a corner and put some smoke between me and the goatee pendant-wearing jazz fraternity on our tail. As we threw the nitro switch on the Be-Bop Volkswagen, we noticed that the jazz police were giving up the chase. My plan worked. Why? As Dollface sidled up to me, she wrapped her red ruby lips around a cigarette, took a deep breath, turned and whispered into my non-whistling ear.
True, pure music transcends all musical boundaries and becomes a higher plane of expression, releasing the artist from the bonds of categorization, thereby forcing the more regressive elements of modern society to reevaluate their collective safety net of churning out tired retreads of former glories, not for the making of a quick buck, but to use as a springboard for delving deeper into the universe of possible new musics awaiting discovery.
Oh, I love it when you talk dirty. And with that there was a loud bang. We had a flat tyre, so we pumped. I pumped, she pumped, and then we got out and fixed the tyre. I took her home and she asked me in for a root beer. The root was nice, but the beer was flat.
Hey! Wah ha ha! Ooh! Hey! Hey, bit risque. I'll never get a gig now. Anyway, you only live once. My name is Quinlan, as I said before. Give me a little bit of editing cardio, and I'll have this up for you tomorrow in a beautiful 4-camera shoot for Channel 31, our beloved Channel 31. Thank God I'm on after the kiddies have gone to bed. Anyway, there you go. All right, I promise the next one will be G. Okay, so what happens is there's that for you. I hope you enjoyed a little show about quantization and all that, with a few cheap jokes and every silly one-liner I could pack into 1,000 words. And then I want to thank the gorgeous Magda Williams, okay, for being a good sport by doing something as silly as that and all that. But anyway, as I said, my name's Quinlan. It's Melbourne Musos Facechook Live, and I shall have all this ready for you tomorrow, along with a few other little tidbits for our little watch parties for everybody all the beautiful people that are putting in all this love to make clips during these lockdowns, okay? Which I call lick downs, but anyway, there you go. But yeah, take care, hey? Have a good last week of holiday, next week, whatever it is. But anyway, mwah. Okay, I'm out of here. Hey!